So after we've done our first month of Angel, we're now moving back to Buffy. This is going to start getting confusing for the next few months until the end of the year, but this is what I promised to do. So a lot of people felt that, opposite to, I suppose, my thoughts, that 3 was the better season, 4 was rather unsatisfying. It was unsure of itself, it was a new direction, it was a new location, it was Buffy growing up and going to college. But I always felt that 3 was the weak season. I didn't like the Faith arc, I didn't like the whole Mayor Snake thing, there was a lot wrong with it for me, and I preferred 4. Over time, I've sort of understood the hatred for 4. Whilst I don't think it's that awful, it's definitely not better than 3, and it's definitely not as good as I remember it being. On a repeat viewing, I was like, ugh, this is terrible, in some parts. Like how Bad Eggs was a real low point, the most unsatisfying episode, I think, of season 2, Be a Bad was the exact same for this year. It was a pointless exercise. It was dealing with the whole, aftermath of Parker, granted, and it gave Buffy perhaps some closure in just clubbing him out, and it showed that side of Willow where she's like, yeah, you screwed over my friend, literally, and I hate you for it, and I see what you're doing. I see you, Parker Abrams. But that could have been in any other episode, and I'd have preferred it to be, because that moment that Willow has with Parker is a great moment. But the episode itself is terrible. It was not fun, it was not engaging. I know what it was trying to do, but it failed miserably. But there were good elements. I'm obviously still going to do a highlight reel for the obvious ones like Hush and Restless. But there were also kind of a lot of middle ground episodes, really. And that's really what this season was, kind of in a weird mirror to season 1 of Angel, because that was very much a middling season at best with some standout episodes. This had exactly the same problem. Part of that was trying to kind of go, oh look, we can cross over, because of them still being on the same network at that time. But I think they leaned too heavily on the idea of like Angel's spectre was hanging over the show in a similar way to Buffy's spectre hanging over Angel. I Will Remember You is the follow-up to Pangs. Now, I will say I Will Remember You is the stronger episode, although I like what they were trying to do. Again, that is this season. I like what they were trying to do, but what we got wasn't quite that. Pangs is a great, I think, early example of white apologists' behaviour towards the Native Americans. I mean, Spike does say, you came in, you killed their people, took their land, that's what conquering nations do. And he does have a point. But that doesn't mean to say that just because it's something that happened years ago, we can't be like, I am really sorry that happened to you. There's a difference between saying, I'm sorry your culture, your people, or you directly went through an experience, to saying, I am responsible for that experience. There is a big difference between the two. And it does make that clear. It's perfectly fine to be upset for the First Nations people, but it's not your fault. It's now become a national holiday where we get to spend time with our families, enjoy that. That is Spike's rebuttal. But Angel hiding in the shadows and the constant sort of, are you evil? Because why would he come back? He was meant to go away because he was good, and he was thinking it's best for everyone. So I love how that was everyone's first question. Are you evil? And yeah, it was still a terrible episode, but it did set up the better one, and that's why I kind of respect it a little. But I think a lot of people's frustrations with this season came in how they handled the initiative, which obviously, yes, was a good idea for what it gave us in Spike. It's very hard to bring a villain back and basically spend the next few years with them if there isn't some way of them not just being a constant enemy in the background, because that gets old hat. 1 season with a big bad works. 4 seasons with a big bad doesn't. So we needed a way to neuter Spike. He kind of literally says that himself, pretty much. And the best way was to put some kind of impedance to him killing and feeding. A vampire's bread and butter, if you will. So, yes, it was a good idea to find some way to do that, but the initiative again was one of those, I like where you were going, in another show, in another time, or with different planning, maybe, that could have been a great arc. It was only an okay arc. Again, because it gave us things that we would build onto the future. But a lot of the fan base are very emotionally invested, shall we say, in certain relationships. And one of the biggest examples of this is the absolute hatred of Kate on Angel and Riley on Buffy. Now, Kate and Buffy obviously do have a closer similarity, blonde-haired, attractive females. It is Angel's type after all. But Riley and Angel are very different, and I think that was a good idea. I think that makes sense. I think it's what we actually needed. We needed something that was different, but a lot of people hated it. Mark Blucas is a nice guy and a good actor, but he doesn't deserve the hate. You know, that's what I'm saying here. It's not his fault. He didn't make the character. Like any actor, he went for a job, and he got it, and he got, you know, just over a year of paychecks out of it. I'll accept that. So, you know, it does make life very difficult for actors on shows like this when they're in a lull season and they're sort of replacing someone else in a roundabout way. But I understand the frustrations. Again, it's something that with better guidance, with better attention, with better nuance, with better writing, I suppose, in a way, you know, this could have been a better season. It's not, you know, it's not as awful as the first season, because obviously it's not finding its feet and the technology has improved. But it isn't as good as the seasons that are full seasons that have that funding. It's very much a season of, we're changing directions. We've got a new dynamic. We've got different players in the game here. And like I say, it has a few standout moments, and I'll cover those obviously in a couple of weeks. But like with Angel, there's not really much more to say. It was middling, it had some standouts, but again, it just shaped the whole and what was to come in the last few years, which really did ramp up the quality. Maybe they needed this slight misstep, slight readjustment, kind of like a first season again. It was first season part 2 almost. Get us into a new environment and we'll show you what we can do from there. So I do hope you join me next time for something I've been looking at doing for a long while, and I accidentally hinted at in the last video because I've done them out of order like a clever person. But we'll be back with Buffy in a couple of weeks as well, so I do hope you join me for both of those. But until then, as always, thank you for watching and take care.